There we go. Well, welcome everybody to the April 10th, 2024 PNRA volunteer Zoom meeting. I'm glad that everybody is here today. We've got a great guest with Trent talking about the Great Western Steam Up, Trent?
The Great Western Steam Up.
Great
Yes, that's what it
Western
was called.
Steam Up.
Yep.
Okay, so that'll be a great program. And I just want to take a minute to talk a little bit about our schedule. First, and very important, there's Jack Christensen popping on the screen right at the right time. Jack, how are you?
Oh, pretty good. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Very good. Yeah, I was a little bit pushed here on for time, and I managed.
There you go. So folks, our next bi-weekly Zoom program, which is going to be on April 24th, is going to be really cool. So we are going to have a double header for you baseball aficionados. It's summer now or baseball season, and so we're going to have a double header. And not only that, but the PNRA Zoom program is going to be live and remote for the very first time. So double knock on wood is hopefully that all works out. We are going to venture a total of 2 blocks away from our office, from where the office is, up to our dear friends at the Highline Heritage Museum, right there in Burien on Ambaum Boulevard. And we're going to have 2 programs that day, and they're going to be open to the public, and they're going to be streamed in this format, just like we're streaming today's program. At 11 a.m., Jack Christensen and Gary Tarbox are going to talk about. Gary, what are you guys going to talk about?
Well, first gonna have Jack is going to talk about the Tacoma connection that allowed the Northern Pacific to get customers directly from Tacoma onto those transcontinental trains, both east and west, and that connection was steam powered and ran in the 50s. And so Jack is going to talk about that. And then at 1 o'clock, I'm going to talk about the development of passenger steam on the NP. I am absolutely focused on NP stuff, as you know, and that I when I was running the PNRA, I had to have a much more universal view, and I did that for a long time, but now I'm really focused on the NP.
Back on the NP, which always amazes me because you're from Anacortes, and of course
Anacortes is a GN town.
Yes.
And in fact, 1246 ran in our little town, and I used to chase it around on my bicycle, but never took a picture of it because pictures and trains just didn't seem to fit together when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
So I kind of blew it there, but I developed a lot of interest in the railroad. But my dad was an early HO modeler, by the way. That probably cemented me mostly, but he
hugely oversized, in my opinion.
Yeah, but
I like normal gauge.
Yes. So, but anyway. I did kind of develop a very big interest in railroads, and at the time, the Puget Sound. What? I just lost the name of the railroad. Baker River in Puget Sound.
There you go.
Was running a Porter Mikado down, pulling logs down from Hamilton to near our fair city, and that got me very interested in steam engines after the 1246 went away. Anyway,
so let me just
the main focus in what I'm presenting is really the development of passenger. As you know, early railroads were passenger focused. The freight business hadn't developed at that point, and so they really focused a lot on serving the passengers. And so we're going to be talking about that next week at 1 o'clock. Not 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks.
At 1
2 weeks
o'clock.
from today at 1 o'clock. We're also going to have an 11 a.m. program, and both of these programs will be available to folks in Portland and in the Tri-Cities and in Cary, North Carolina, just like they always are. And so we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun experiment for us and should be a lot of fun. So I'm already at 106. I got to get this calendar done. So 5/8 PNRA board president Russell Holter will be here. He will be representing, I think, his presentation from the NPRHA convention. May 22nd, one of our favorite guests, Christy Lake and possibly Richard Anderson from the Northwest Railroad Museum will be here talking about all the fun stuff that they do up there, including one that's of particular interest to the Tacoma chapter of the NRHS, and that is Rail Camp. June 5th, we've got an NPR personality from Brainerd, Minnesota, talking about the history of the Northern Pacific, Dan Hegstead. And June 19th, again, one of our perennial favorites, J. Craig Thorpe will be back with us talking about what J. Craig Thorpe does best. So after the June 19th meeting, we are going to be taking 7 weeks off. And it looks like to me that we are going to start our fall campaign of programming on September 4th of 2024. And by moving it up a week, Gary, that way we can get one more extra program in. We can get 3 in the month of October that way. And folks, we've got a number of really great guests lined up for the fall already. I'm just going to tell you some of the names that we've got in the hat. Dale Sanders, Andrea Capiola, Paul Dedalius, somebody from the executive directors of the Centralia Chehalis Railroad and the Mount Rainier Scenic. And there's some other stuff out there. So the fall program is really starting to, here it is, like April, and we're already sort of booking up through the end of the year because the program's popular and people like to come and watch, but they don't like to come and watch me. So before I turn it over to Trent, hey, Gary, I just want to circle back for a second. Can you just kind of tell us a little bit about what we're doing out at the archive these days and how folks that are local and remote can participate as a volunteer in some of the fun we have there?
Absolutely. The PNRA has really gotten a large number of collections over the last few years. Those collections very heavily involved in photography, mapping, a fair amount of books that go into our library. We have one of the most complete libraries that represent the Pacific Northwest Railroad scene. And what we do is a lot of times we'll take our photo slide collections, and we'll scan those and then make those available to people who are remote from and can't drive to the archive to help us catalog them. Complete, we give them formats, and usually we do it in Excel. And I'm just mentioning that if you're so inclined, we will be able to match a railroad of interest with your interests and get you something that's fun. And you'll find once you start this kind of thing, it's very addictive. You can't wait to get to the next slide or next page of what you're working on, because it is really interesting. It's the actual history of what was happening on the railroad. So please go to our website. That's NPRHA, and then you spell out the rest of archive.org, and send us an email.
Wait a
And
minute,
we-
Gary, NPR, you're in your NPR.
Did I
You're in-
screw up? Oh, I'll see.
It's
My
Pacific North, just Google the Pacific Northwest Railroad Archive.org, folks, and
and
our
you'll
website will pop up.
Yeah,
But you know
top
what?
up.
Gary's right. There's a variety of places. The NP's got volunteer opportunities all the time, as does the as we do at PMRA. So, Gary, I didn't mean to step on you there, but we did,
that was good enough.
You
Yeah,
got to keep it balanced.
absolutely.
And we've got collections, in all seriousness, we've got collections from the Great Northern and the Northern Pacific. Well, you probably already knew that by now. The Spokane, Portland, and Seattle, the Milwaukee Road, Cascade Rail Foundation. We have a UP collection. We have logging collections. And
We also have, as our newest member, RHO, is BNSF and BN. We have those collections too.
Friends of the Burlington Northern. Yes, Fobiner, absolutely right. So a lot of opportunity out there, folks. So, we hope you enjoy the programming, and, we'd love to have you be part of the fun in other ways too. So, Gary, I think it's time that I turn the program, like I always say, no one came to see me. They came to see our guest. And so, folks, I just want to turn it over to my friend Trent. Now, we already know that Trent missed the Oregon the Oregon Centennial because
But this,
Trent told me he was -1 at that.
-1 that year. Yeah.
So just tell us a little bit about your interest in trains, and then launch into your presentation.
Oh, well, I have that in my presentation as slide 2. So I will get to that as part of my presentation. Let's see if I can I grab the.
You're enabled, so you should be able to screen share, and it looks like there you go. So off we go.
Okay. And can I go to the next slide? And oh, wait. Uh-oh.
That's up to you. You're driving the bus.
Yeah, and for some reason I can't figure out how to go to the next. Oh, wait, here we go.
I know.
I gotta figure out how to go to the next slide. Let's see. Oh,
Use your arrow button.
I got it. And it's not page up, page down. It's arrow. But thanks, Gary.
Yeah,
okay.
Always, we appreciate you, Gary. So Trent, take it away.
I got it. Yes. So in July of 2022, I decided to go on a road trip. But I had to have it well planned because my wife wouldn't go otherwise. So it was a well planned road trip. And the main reason was to go down to Carson City for something called the Great Western Steam Up, which they were going to have a big show there in July. So this is a bit of a travelogue, but it's mainly about Carson City and a little bit about Dunsmuir. Here's the intro, a little bit about myself. But behind my grandparents' house was a trolley museum. It was called Trolleyville, USA, from 54 to 2005. The picture on the screen is the very first picture I took with this used Duoflex 4 camera I got for my birthday in the early 70s. So here I am. My very first picture was a picture of, guess what? A depot, because I'm rather fond of depots. So yeah, this was the depot behind my grandparents' house in the Trolleyville, USA Museum. The depot has been since moved down into downtown Olmsted Falls, which is where I grew up, in 2008, because the trolley museum is no longer in existence. Neither is my grandparents' farm. Both of those have become a large mobile home park, much to my dismay. But that's how I got interested. Doesn't everybody have a train museum behind their grandparents' farm? Just slightly more about Trolleyville, USA, behind my grandparents' house. The Star is where my grandparents' farm was, right at the end of the loop there. So, boy, we had prime viewing, sitting on the back porch, watching the trolleys go by for many years. These other two pictures shown here are that also from my first roll of black and white film with my camera. That camera uses 2 1/4 size negatives, by the way. You can tell my skill needed some work back then, especially that bottom picture. That streetcar was moving and I wasn't. And with low ISO pictures, that's just not going to work. the other fun thing on this thing to the left with the map. Up at the top, like I said, is my grandparents' farm. At the bottom of this Trolleyville Museum was a drugstore. Well, that was important for two reasons. A, that's where I got the film developed. And B, slightly after that, I became an employee there who did stock the shelves. So this whole area has lots of meaning to me. My grandparents' farm at one end, my first job, and getting all my photos developed at the other end of the other end of the line there. And just for those who care, those two streetcars are now still in existence slightly elsewhere in Ohio, but they still run. Okay, so on to the trip. Here's kind of an overview of the route we took down, kind of a clockwise route down from Portland, down south. We went down on the right to Klamath Falls, Susanville, to Reno, came back through Sacramento, Dunsmuir, Medford. Was the trip over the week that we were out and about. So my first, just to say, Oak Ridge, some beautiful country there. I didn't take any pictures. I wasn't allowed to stop. We were on our way, and wife says, "You can't stop." So no pictures from Oak Ridge. So here, first stop of the day was Klamath Falls. There's a photo of the 1910 SP Depot there in Klamath Falls. 2 trains a day on the Coast Starlight, late in the day, early in the morning. Big yard there, Klamath Falls. So there's some railfan shops there at Klamath Falls. Well, that was just an overnight stop. The goal was to get to Reno, which we did the next day. So here's that standard shot of coming into Reno with the sign. For those of you folks who haven't been to Reno in a while, they were quite annoyed that the train would stop the traffic through town. You can't keep those people from gambling their money away. So in 2005, they lowered the grade through town, 2-mile-long trench, eliminated 11 rail crossings through town. So now the train whizzes through town below grade, including the California Zephyr is below grade. So at the right, in the right-hand picture, is the back of the depot there in Reno. Here's the front of the depot. It was rebuilt in 1926 by SP. Beautiful depot inside and out, but basically only 2 trains per day, so it's not super busy there. Of course, the Virginia and Truckee, that was the end of their line from 1872 to their last run in 1950. There's another depot in Reno, since I'm fond of depots. The Nevada, California, Oregon Railway, the end of their line was in Reno. The other end was in Lakeview, Oregon. The map shows that there. This was a 3-foot gauge, narrow gauge railroad. Started in 1880 in Reno. Took them a while to get finished. I love the nicknames. Narrow, Crooked, and Ornery, or Northern California Outrage was the nickname for the NCO. There is a recently restarted NCO Railway Historic Society collecting things up in Lakeview, if you're interested in checking them out. Here's another picture of that beautiful depot in Reno for the NCO. It's now been converted to a restaurant. This depot was completed in 1912. 1925, the NCO became part of Southern Pacific, who re-gauged it to standard gauge. Then that picture to the lower right is kind of a yard picture there in Reno. As I was sitting in the restaurant, that's what I was staring at, waiting for my food to come. Annoying my wife that I'm running around the restaurant taking pictures inside the restaurant. But a beautiful depot there in Reno for the NCO. Okay, I thought I would pull up the seal of Nevada, since we're in Nevada now. It's called the Silver State. But what I thought was cool about this seal, it tells exactly what's going on there. In the left, you have somebody doing mining. In the center, you have the railroads moving the ore and the precious metals. And then you have the little building doing some refining of the precious metals. So that's what Nevada is all about. It was all about mining. Certainly in its early years, half of the precious metals in the U.S. came out of Nevada ground. And they needed railroads to support all that moving the precious metals around. Oh, in the lower left, that's how they mined in Nevada. They built little timber cubes as they dug into the mountain to pull out the silver and gold. Okay. So what the main reason to visit Reno and Carson City was this Virginia and Truckee 150th anniversary. Just a little bit about the Virginia and Truckee. It was first constructed from Carson City to Virginia City to move all that gold and silver mine. It was called the Comstock Lode. There was actually two people that found that original stake, but of course only one guy's name, Comstock, is remembered. The other guy got bought out. So the beginnings of the railroad was in 1869 to haul that ore out of Virginia City, which is kind of up in the hills a ways, down to Carson City. And then the first train to run up to Reno was in 1872, and hence the 2022 150th anniversary of the railroad. And of course, if any of you are familiar with what I do in the Trainmaster since 2012 now, I'm very fond of maps, and so I love all kinds of maps. This one I thought was one of those great character maps that shows Virginia City, Carson City, and Reno, and the fun places along the way. A lot of what came out of Virginia City by the Virginia Truckee that was precious metals was turned into coinage at the mint in Carson City, and then made its way from there to Reno to either go on the NCO or the SP. Depending on where its final destination was. So that was basically what the railroad did. Bring out the precious metals, pass it off in Reno to the SP for transmitting it to other locations. But as you can imagine, a place like Virginia City and Carson City that's just flush with precious metals, there was a lot of rich people. So at its time, in the late 1880s, like the people in Virginia City were some of the wealthiest in the United States. And Virginia City was home to all kinds of saloons and palaces and theaters. A lot of times people would go from Reno and Carson City would come into Virginia City to partake in all of the festivities there. So a bit of the back end of history of the Virginia and Truckee. In 1929, it started to lose money for the first time, mainly because after a while you mine everything in the area that you can possibly mine, and then you don't have much to move anymore. Certainly by the 20s and 30s, passenger was also declining. So it went into bankruptcy in 1938. The last train from Virginia City was in 1950, and they tore up the rails. Time passed, and some folks decided, hey, this would be a great tourist railroad and history adventure. So in 72, they began to restore the line. The first part of it they built was from Virginia City back to Gold Hill, which was about 2 miles. There's a picture of me riding it in 2004. Back then, all they had was, a diesel and some other cars, nothing historic at the time yet. And then the good folks in the Nevada legislature gave them a grant to rebuild from Gold Hill to Carson City. Well, it's eastern Carson City, the full Virginia and Truckee line, and that was completed in 2009. And then, as I said, the railroad went into receivership in 38, and the last train was 1950. They at that time they were selling a lot of their equipments to the Hollywood studios for use in westerns. That becomes important a little bit later, but that's kind of what happened during that time frame. A lot of their equipment was sold off to studios and then showed up in movies. They had 29 steam locomotives on their roster, ranging from 1869 to 1913. They were numbered 1 through 27. It's just interesting. 20 of these were built by Baldwin. For those who are big Baldwin fans. Well, I have a question for the audience. I see these logos, this Baldwin inverted triangle-shaped logo on these older locomotives. I think that is so cool, but I never did quite figure out why Baldwin applied these to their side of their early locomotives. This design that announced. This was a Baldwin Locomotive Works loco, which you can see a large number of locomotives from the Virginia and Truckee still survive to this day. Mainly that's because a lot of these were sold off to the Hollywood studios, and then the Hollywood studios decided that they didn't want to own locomotives, and so basically they were sold back to California Museum, Nevada Museum, and Pennsylvania Museum. So that's where a lot of these came from that now populates the regional, and there's one, the Tahoe number 20 is in the Pennsylvania State Railroad Museum. The other ones are in California and Nevada. So that's how they basically all survived. They were used a long time on the Virginia and Truckee, sold off to the Hollywood studios, and then brought back by the museums. So we got a good selection of these wonderful steam locomotives still in existence, and a lot of them in operation. Okay, now the big event, which was called the Great Western Steam Up, for their 150th anniversary of the railroad being completed in 1872. What their goal was to collect as many of these Virginia and Truckee locomotives, as well as any other Nevada-based locomotives, and bring them back to the Nevada State Railroad Museum for this event. I can just say up front, oh my God, I've never seen such a collection of interesting and beautifully preserved steam locomotives than I saw that day. This was just a list of some of them that were there steamed up that day. We'll get into more of that in a minute. A little bit about the Nevada State Railroad Museum. The main reason I'm really fond of the Nevada State Railroad Museum, to me, they do it all what I think a museum should do. They have a site where they have things that are well preserved in exhibits, and a portion of the site has the back shop where they're working on locomotives, and they also have a loop so that they can run the locomotives. They have some historic buildings that were moved there to support that kind of excursion operation around their loop. Just an overall, this is exactly to me what you're meant to do at a railroad museum. Collect, preserve these things, operate and restore some things, and bring the public in to kind of, as it says there, the sights and sounds and sensations of a train ride. They do it all. They were opened in 1980. They were renamed as current in 1985. The key is they do get a lot of state funding, which comes and goes over time, but they have a great collection of volunteers that kind of runs the overall operation there. Great place if you've never been there. It's in Carson City. So this was their, again, I love these maps. The day of the event, this is what they were handing out to all of us about what was going to go on where on their site. Again, you can see they have their back shop, they have their turntable, they have their museum, which is basically an engine house with 2 stalls that some of the equipment is stored in there. They have this loop, and then they also have they can reverse the locomotives too there, so they can run around things. What was key, next to the kind of in the middle of that, there's a station that they use for the visitors. You know what they did the day of this event? I thought this was the coolest thing. They had a little picnic area set up for all of those spouses who didn't want to wander around with the grounds with their other spouse. So my wife spent the entire time at the depot hanging out with other spouses, probably making fun of us the whole time. Every once in a while, I'd get a text. She would say, "Bring me something to drink, bring me something to eat." But yeah, I said, boy, any event needs to have that, the spouses hangout location. So the spouses can just, make fun of all of us rail fans. And like I said, they have a little 56-foot turntable there. It's an Armstrong type turntable. What I thought was neat is a lot of this trackage here is dual gauge, 3-foot and standard, including the turntable. But if you look at that in that shot of the turntable, notice that the narrow gauge is centered on the standard gauge. And I actually asked them that, and they says, well, we don't want to have a narrow gauge locomotive offset from the center of the turntable, left to right, not front to back. So when it goes on the turntable, it's centered in the center of the track, so that that narrow gauge track is centered within the standard gauge track on the turntable, which makes some of their switches really complicated. Okay, so now we're going to get into, like, I'm wandering on like a kid in a candy store, don't know where to look first. There's stuff everywhere, historic stuff. This one, though, is not historic. They want to recreate their #1 locomotive, which was sold off and scrapped in 1900. So they're rebuilding from scratch their #1. So it's a Lion locomotive. It was built in San Francisco, the 260. So the Nevada State Railroad Museum is rebuilding that from scratch and tending toward eventual operation of this locomotive. And there's a historic photo of that locomotive there. This is a later Virginia and Truckee locomotive, number 25. This was one of the ones, what they did, every hour they switched the locomotive that was going around the grounds pulling the passengers. So they were kind of showcasing locomotives during the day. So this is one of the later ones from Virginia and Truckee. It was 1905. That survived for a long time. Belongs to the Nevada State Railroad Museum now, and they use it as one of their runners for operation. You can see that their water tower is a square one as opposed to a round one. Guess I don't know why that is. Found that interesting there. And this is these are one of those examples. Here's a narrow gauge 260, just a beautiful locomotive that's been restored. This was, like I said, a branch line of the Virginia and Truckee. Was moving lumber around to Virginia City. Of course, they did a little bit of lumber there, but most of it was mining of ore, especially gold and silver and other ores in the area, but a little bit of lumber. It's a little different than Oregon, right? Oregon, we think it's all about moving lumber and grain, etc. Here, it's more lumber and metals and ores. So this is what 1875 locomotive Baldwin work. Back to that NCO Railroad. Here's one of their locomotives, which is a narrow gauge locomotive. It's lettered for Southern Pacific because Southern Pacific took over the NCO later. This is another one of those classic examples of a locomotive that was retired in the 50s, sat in a park for a long time. Then a group of people got together and restored it to operation in 2017. And so now it's like I said, since they have narrow dual gauge trackage on the grounds, they can also operate this. And they did for passenger rides for about an hour that day. And of course, you have to have a logging locomotive. But then in this case, again, what we consider logging locomotives in the Northwest, they consider mining locomotives down in Nevada. So this Heisler was used for mining at the time, bluestone mining and smelting. So that was on display in operation, pulling trains for an hour. Eureka Palisades is kind of a popular narrow gauge privately owned locomotive that goes out and about. It was starred in some Hollywood movies. Like I said in the map there, it ran from Eureka and Palisades, hence the name. But again, another beautiful locomotive. I mean, when I arrived on the grounds, you don't know where to look. You had all these wood-burning locomotives, beautifully restored, in operation, moving around. It was an amazing day. This is another Virginia and Truckee original from 1873. They're Genoa. This is the sister locomotive to the Reno. So those two are built at the same time by Baldwin. Not as pretty. This one it was originally painted in multicolors. Now it's all black. Number 11 Reno is one of the really popular ones because it was in a lot of Hollywood movies. It was recently purchased by Nevada State Railroad Museum from old Tucson Studios and is going through a restoration back to its original glory. You can see a picture there when it arrived in August 2021. And a bit of a plug for my previous talk. The Zoo Locomotive Steamer Oregon is based on the Reno and maybe the Genoa too, because they're sister locomotives. So that's probably how it's going to be restored, with all of its brightly colored and polished brass, much like the replica of the Portland Zoo locomotive, Oregon. But this one, it was named Reno, and that's also what it did there. It actually ran from Virginia and Reno for passenger trains for quite a number of years before it got retired to Hollywood stardom. This is one of the few, or this is the only remaining Virginia and Truckee locomotive that wasn't built by Baldwin. This was built by the Central Pacific shops in Sacramento, but it's looks similar to a Baldwin, 1873, beautifully restored. Its duty was to pull the branch line from Carson City to Minden, Nevada, at the time. Oh, and they just had this little cute little another mining locomotive called the Chicken, because it used to be at a chicken fried restaurant in Stockton. But the reason I added this in is what I thought was cool for the event. They kind of had a viewing stand and a announcer at the turntable, and what they would do is bring in each operational locomotive onto the turntable. They'd spin it around. The announcer would talk about it, and then they would send it off on pulling its runs for the day. So it was, like I said, an amazing day, and it was also beautiful weatherized. This is their number 22 Inyo, which is my favorite for some reason. But it was also in a lot of movies over its life. It now belongs at the Nevada State Railroad Museum. Usually it's in their exhibit space, but they do operate it at least once or twice a year. Beautiful, again, beautiful, great shape locomotive. But remember, all of these are wood burning locomotives. The pile of wood outside the facility there was amazing that day. It's like, I don't know if there are many trees left in Nevada. But again, all these are Baldwin wood burning locomotives. Just a quick view inside their exhibit space, exhibit hall. They have a map on the floor there. Then they have their McKean motor car, number 22. They bought a self-propelled passenger car in 1910 to help out with some passenger service, still in existence. To me, it has that Jules Verne look to it. The round porthole windows, again, beautifully restored in 2010, operates on the grounds at the museum. Well, that was my day at the Carson City Museum. Like I said, that it was, I don't think I've ever taken so many pictures in a short amount of time than I did there. You didn't know where to look. Everywhere you looked was some just beautifully restored locomotive. So then they have to go to Virginia City to see, because they have a tourist railroad ride there. I showed it earlier what it looked like in 2004. Now they've upped their game because now they have historic steam locomotives and equipment there. The day I was there was it's number 29. It's numbered Virginia and Truckee 29, but it wasn't an original Virginia and Truckee locomotive, which was taking visitors between the 2-mile run between Virginia City and Gold Hill there. My wife even said that was one of the best narrated train rides she's ever been on. Because yeah, they did a fun job of doing a bit of narration there on the trip. This is looking in toward Virginia City with the big St. Mary's Church there. Right below the St. Mary Church is the original Virginia and Truckee depot in Virginia City there. A little farther down, they have the original freight station at the end of the line there in Virginia City, where they would load up all of the precious metal and ore onto the train. But this is all still in existence and well restored. What I don't have a view of here is that the town is built on a hill. To walk up from this up to the town is quite a hike, and each street is progressively higher and higher up the hill. So on our excursion to Gold Hill, there's a depot that was built in 1872 there in Gold Hill. There's a whole the whole loop by the depot is full of old mines, played out now of gold and silver mines. That's a reason for Gold Hill's existence. It was hills full of gold and silver, and they would load up the train, send it off to Carson City from here in the 1870s, 1880s, and such. Like I said, this was a 40-minute round trip to Gold Hill. A wonderful narration. This little picture, some of you folks here from Oregon are familiar with the Kepner collection. But one of the Kepner locomotives, this Heber Valley number 100, went up to Virginia City to be restored, and it'll become their Virginia and Truckee number 30 to be used for excursion runs. They've got big excursion business now because they do the run from Virginia City and Carson City once or twice a day most times, and they also do the short run Virginia City to Gold Hill. So they got a big tourist train operation. They need and they like to do it with vintage equipment, whether or not it's Virginia Truckee, but at least vintage steam locomotives. So again, I said they purchased this locomotive when it became available from the Kepner collection here in Merrill, Oregon, and they'll put it back in operation. Okay, that was my trip in Reno and Carson City and Virginia City. Oh, sadness! It was time to come home. Believe it or not, we used Sacramento as a lunch stop on the way back. And we were running, my schedule was a little too ambitious. I didn't leave myself any time to go to the California State Railroad Museum that day. But I've been there before, so we just stopped quickly there in Sacramento for some eats. And I said, again, got to take a picture of the depot, this freight depot in Old Town Sacramento, the Central Pacific Depot, which housed a number of vintage locomotives there. I'll say then, leaving Sacramento, our next stop was Dunsmuir, California. The reason for a major railroad stop will become clear soon if you haven't been to Dunsmuir, California. This is the picture of their, it's not quite as impressive as their original railroad depot, but now the Southern Pacific Shasta Division archives are housed here in this former UP crew quarters, and this is also the Amtrak stop for the Coast Starlight at the wee hours of 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. in the morning there in Dunsmuir. What else is at Dunsmuir? Well, it was a major stop. You can see the Dunsmuir Yard here. Picture by Martin and Hansen collection. It's just kind of an overall map of where it's located there with the Oregon border up at the top, splitting off between, toward the two splits of the Southern Pacific, Medford to the left, Klamath Falls to the right routes. And yeah, it became the Southern Pacific Shasta Division in 1916. Their turntable from 1897, I should say the turntable print from 1897 is still there. The turntable is still in operation and can be operated in use there in the yard in Dunsmuir. Here's a vintage photo of the Dunsmuir turntable and a little bit more of the yard in Dunsmuir. Like any good city, right? They had a locomotive donated to them. So in 1957, Dunsmuir got their locomotive, the 1727. It was in rough shape for a number of years, but in 2021, this group called the Friends of the 1727 completed a cosmetic restoration of the locomotive. It looks beautiful. You can actually see it from I-5 if you look just at the right time off to the side there to see it. But yep, so the city of Dunsmuir has their very own Southern Pacific locomotive on display. And some gentleman there in his property has a random caboose painted with this, I thought, wonderful graphic. Definitely a railroad town, Dunsmuir. And in fact, they celebrate in June, Dunsmuir Railroad Days, their railroad heritage. Even the the tank in the Dunsmuir yard has got Southern Pacific Line's graphic painted on it. That was really interesting with the diesel and steam locomotive there on their oil tank or fuel tank storage. Definitely a railroad town. What else is there to do in Dunsmuir? Well, there's something called the Railroad Park Resort, which has a number of railroad artifacts in it, this being one of them. A Willamette, a true to God Willamette locomotive, construction number 21, a 1926, was moved here in 1965, has undergone a cosmetic restoration. For those of you spotters out there, how do you tell the difference between a Shay and a Willamette locomotive? It's one of the key things is where I circled. The three cylinders you see there are all facing the same direction, unlike a Shay, which two face one way and one face another. And it's not impinging on the volume of the cab. The cab is free to move about, where unlike a Shay, the third cylinder is right there in the cab. So for you spotters, that's how you tell, mainly how quick way to tell the difference between a Willamette and a Shay is these three cylinders on the side and how they're positioned. Yeah, so this Railroad Park Resort has a Willamette for your viewing pleasure. It has an eating and some rail cars for your dining pleasure. And you can stay in a caboose. Well, after this was our last stop before heading home. My wife would kill me if she knew I showed a picture of her snoozing on the bed there after we got to the caboose that day. But yeah, we stayed in this Burlington Northern caboose. You can sit up in the cupola and read and watch the sunset. Beautiful park there in Dunsmuir. And then, of course, on our way back, we had to stop and, have to stop to see a picture of a depot. So here's the Southern Pacific Depot in Medford, which is now a restaurant. 1910 Southern Pacific Depot. And that's the end of the line. This picture, now we're circling back to my hometown. We talked about the Trolleyville Museum that was behind my grandparents' house. A block from where my parents live, where I grew up and where my parents still live, is this main line. It was the Norfolk Southern main line now, but it was the Lakeshore and Michigan Southern Railroad New York Central main line. And this depot is 1876 in my hometown. It's now used as a model railroad museum. Has their model railroad in the freight portion and have some other exhibits in the passenger portion. So it's well restored and maintained by the local railroad group in my hometown. So, yep, there we go. That's my presentation for today. See you near the rails, never on the rails, remember, near the rails.
Video. And well, thank you, Trent. That, there was a number of different things that I learned for the very first time. I guess that's what you always do when you learn something for the first time.
Yeah.
That I didn't know. And so that was pretty interesting. Now, Olmsted Falls. There
Yes.
are Olmsteds out here. Is there any connection? Do you know?
Not that I know of.
Okay,
No.
just a coincidence, because
Yeah.
the Olmsteds were, I think they like designed parks and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
it's spelled the same as that. Yeah,
Okay.
as the park designer. But yeah, the folks that settled there, Nathaniel Holmes. Yeah, there was a different group of settlers at the time. This was the Western Reserve, part of the Western Reserve when people were first moving to Ohio and then settling that area.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when it was first settled. And like I said, the railroad came through in 1876.
Yeah.
Back
Okay.
then. But it's glad that I thought it was neat that the two closest depots to where I live were restored and maintained, not torn down. Like I said, the original one was moved a couple times. That was at Trolleyville.
Yeah.
They dumped that into downtown Olmsted Falls now, which I thought was weird.
When was the last time you were back there?
Oh, a year ago now.
Oh,
ago.
Okay.
Yeah, what they've done to the downtown is they've made it all into these fancy shops, kept all the historic buildings in the downtown area. So the 1870s, 1880s, 1890s buildings are all restored. And they pull the depot from the old museum and put it there. Even though the depot I just showed is like a block away. Now they have two depots within a block of each other on the tracks there. Yeah.
So very interesting, that Nevada State Railroad Museum. Now, so they run their tourist operation all the way down to the museum and then up to Virginia City. They can't.
Oh, no, not yet, but not yet. No, they want to do that, but
They
they're
do.
talking that they make that last bit of connection is many millions of dollars, like $40 million.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
so they would really like to have, because their museum is located very much as the shops, very near the shop location for the Virginia and Truckee in Carson City. But yeah, no, right now that it does have connection to the outside world based on that track, but yeah, but not to the Virginia and Truckee. It's a little bit out of town is where the end of the rebuilt line is nowadays. Yeah, where you catch the long run.
So the long run would be what, 9 miles each way, something like that?
Yeah, something like that. It takes is it good 2 hours each way? Because they go fairly
wow.
slow and loop around. It's one of those things you get on in the morning and you hang around Virginia City for the day, and then they bring you back at the end of the day, that type of thing. And they do some short runs from Carson City as well as short runs from Virginia City.
Yeah, that I've been to that Nevada Museum a couple different times. In fact, the last time I was there, we had a charter of the Slim Princess down at Loss.
Oh, okay.
Which was on home rails.
Yeah.
So that was originally painted for remind me the name of that.
NCO, Nevada, California, Oregon Railroad. That's
so
what it was.
That gets standard gauge like some of the other ones then when the SP took it over?
Oh, I don't know, because you're right. The trackage got standard gauge, but they didn't standard gauge that particular locomotive, kept it at narrow gauge. I think it went to some other locations narrow gauge for a while before.
Well, yeah, when the SP got that railroad, they it was like a Winio all the way up to somewhere was this short line, and it was quite interesting. So, well, great. And Trent, so the plan is that we're recording today's program, and I will upload that, or I will give it to the folks that work at the PNRA office to upload that to our YouTube channel, and that should be online, shortly. I can't make commitments for other people. All I could do is just shamelessly beg, which I'm good at. So, anybody got anything from the audience for Trent? George Foster?
I have a question for Trent. I believe there's now a second location for the Nevada State Rail Museum, and was it down by Vegas?
Yes, it's in Boulder. I have not been there yet, but yeah, they got a second location there down by Boulder. I haven't been there to see what they've done, but it helps a little bit that you got a state promoted and help out state funded organization for tourism there. That helps. But
yeah, I mean, it's interesting to find a state that really, actually likes trains.
Well, I gotta say, but I've heard their funding goes up and down over time.
Oh,
but
well,
but it's all about the volunteers, as in most places. There's a Friends of group there that actually, they run the gift shop and they do the restoration work, and they do the, the excursions around the loop on the property and that type of stuff. But
because I was kind of hoping that you were going to show that what is it, the Tucson something or other in Gila Bend?
Oh, no.
That little interurban car of theirs, little gas.
Oh yeah, they have a little interurban, but you know what? It wasn't on the grounds that day. I don't know where it is.
Really?
Now that I think about it, because I was everywhere on the grounds. They let you.
Yeah. They have a McKean car.
Yeah, that's the McKean car.
22. The only one in existence, apparently, that they restored a few years ago.
Yeah, but I know what Jonathan's talking about. They have this other interurban car, and I rode it there in 2004. But it wasn't there during this event because, like I said, I wandered every nook and cranny. They let us rail fans that wander around the entire property taking up. Well, that's not quite true. They had that 240 Boker, which is built by Baldwin, a very
Right.
rare 24. They wouldn't let us see that for some reason.
Crazy.
And I asked why. He says, well, we've set up an area around that for the VIP banquet later in the day. So you can't
Ew.
go see that because we don't want people trouncing around the. That was the only spot they wouldn't let us go see, and I was bummed to say, "Oh, I didn't get to see that locomotive."
So Doug, that McKean car, I mean, they've got that thing, I mean, that thing is polished and shiny. I mean, it's as shiny as George Foster's Buick.
Trans Am.
Trans Am, sorry.
Yeah, there it is. There's the McKean car. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Oh, yeah.
McKean
It
car.
just gleams in the
It just
sunlight there.
gleams, I know.
Oh, yeah.
And I was there, oh gosh, kind of around the same time you were, and it was in the shop, and it was on a day that they were closed. And I walked over and I said, could you guys open the door so I could take a picture of it? And they did. I
Yeah.
mean, their volunteers there are just really, really nice. So if you haven't been to the
Yeah.
Nevada State Railroad Museum, folks, it's certainly a worthwhile stop. And so, George, did you have something earlier?
Yeah, a lot of little things there. Your list of locomotives that they had there was really interesting because the J.W. Boker for all the modelers was made by AHM, their manufacturer Porsche or Porsche.
Yeah.
And I also think the Genoa was the 440. And then at Dunsmuir, it was interesting to see the juxtaposed road names because you had the BN caboose, probably either SPNS or NP prototype that was lettered for SP. And then you
Yeah.
had an SP prototype lettered for BN at the motel.
At the motel, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Just
the
no
other
accounting for taste, as they say in my business.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, obviously somebody didn't do their homework. But anyway, also what Doug was saying about the Boulder Museum, if I'm not mistaken, they also have the former UP GP 3844 that was purchased in 62, and that caused the 844 to be renumbered to 8444 when they got that.
yeah,
So I think
that's
I think that's where that engine is.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. So
When when the 844 was going home from the Spokane World's Fair,
yeah.
I spent the night at Hinkle, and the GP30 844 was there. I almost got a picture of both engines in the same frame, but they were never. The GP30 never got quite close enough so I could get it in the same frame.
yeah, that was my territory before I retired. Based at Hinkle and going like 3 different directions to LeGrand, Spokane, or all the way to the Dalles sometimes. So.
Oh, George, you mentioned those 2 models. You look
Yeah.
behind my head on the wall there. That's my history of locomotives. I have those 2 models. The Boker and the Genoa are up on that in that display case up there.
I can see them clearly.
Can you see them? Well, yeah, but they're toward the top because the newer CSX stuff is at the bottom. Yeah, they're in chronological order. They may be. Are they on the second? Oh, they're on the first shelf. Well, the second
Okay.
shelf.
Well, tell them to wave at us.
They're like, right.
Oh, I give them the finger. Right by the finger.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, great program, and Trent will get this up online, and I'll let you know, and then your friends or anybody that wants to watch will be able to watch it from the PNRA YouTube channel, Pacific Northwest Railroad Archive YouTube channel. We've got a bunch of great stuff. A number of our former programs are online these days. So if you haven't checked that out, it'll give you something to do on Wednesday afternoons while we're taking the summer off. So
are you sending out emails to remind us of these things? Those of
are
us that are members of the PNRA?
Well, so Doug, that raises a good question. So you're here because Trent invited you.
But I'm also a member of PNRA. Gary
Okay,
kept sending me letters asking me to send more money.
Gary, where's Gary in the middle of all
And
this?
he always sent money, no
And he
problem.
always said
No,
money, yeah.
that's yeah, you're good for it, Doug. We know that. That's why we keep sending you the letters because we do.
Yeah.
I'm teasing you.
Someday I'll tell you the story about how I bought a GP7, I mean, an F7A.
F7A, yeah.
There you go. We'll look forward to that. So Doug, what we can do, and thank you for asking, and folks, if you're new today, or if you're just joining us as a guest or whatever, or one of your friends invited you, drop me a note or drop a note to info@pnraarchive.org, and we'll get you added to our mailing list. And so Doug, I'm sure that I must have your email somewhere, and when I find it, then what I'll do is I'll add you to our list, and you are officially invited to every subsequent program we ever have. Okay, and we're glad that you're here, folks. If you know of somebody else that would be interested in sitting in on this or participating, or somebody that's got a program, we've got a pretty active calendar, but I'm always looking for new talent. That's how you survive. And so, it's just a lot of fun for us all old train nerds to get together every couple of weeks and have some fun together and look at some train stuff. So,
Hey, Jonathan,
yeah, go ahead.
who on there is it Gary that lives in the Tri-Cities or something?
Steve Howes is in the tri.
Oh, is it Steve? Oh,
Steve,
okay.
Yeah, Steve will be meeting us on Saturday for our
SW1 test drive.
of the, they had a little malfunction yesterday, so it's going to be a static display this time. But on the bright side, that's just an excuse for me to come back again.
I'll promise you, I'll try to get it going.
Yeah, well, we can't talk about what happened here, but it's
Oh, no.
it's a temporary setback. So
Oh.
I want to ask a question of Steve. I'm trying to. Did you work for the Forest Service?
Yes, I did. Spent my whole career with them.
Did you do the tour of Sumter Valley
Yep.
back, 40 years ago?
Yes, I did.
Where two van loads came up from Portland?
Yes, I did. That was
All
me.
right, now I place you.
Yeah, we also ran into each other in Chama one time too, on a trip down there.
Okay.
Steve, what are you guys going to be doing for operations at the Sumter this summer? You guys got a plan? What are you going to be running?
Well, we've got pretty much a full schedule. We do a combination of short runs from Sumter down to the river, plus full round trips between McEwen and Sumter. We're still waiting to get both of our steam locomotives up and running. We hope to have that happen sometime this summer. It's looking good that we'll be able to do that. All in all, it's shaping up to be a pretty good year as far as customers, passengers. The biggest thing right now is we're moving into the new archives building.
I was going to ask you about that. Go ahead.
And well, I haven't been over there lately, but Brett's been feeding me pictures, and we're getting all the shelving, window covers, tables, furniture, that sort of thing. And hopefully we're going to be ready to start organizing and making things available or easier access for people wanting to use the materials that we have. We also just finished the excavation for the track extension up in Sumter, and hopefully we're going to start laying track up there, the 90 feet of additional track to accommodate longer trains.
And the goal there is that way you don't block that grade crossing that goes out to the dredge.
That is correct.
All right. Yeah, Sumter Valley, folks, a fun little railroad. Boy, I tell you.
As long as I got the floor, can I?
Got it.
I'd like to give a shout out to Alan Miller. After I watched his last presentation last time on Milwaukee operations on the Olympic Peninsula. It got me thinking about my experiences growing up and seeing Milwaukee Road activity there in Everett, which of course is a GN town. But I had some questions. Jonathan put me in contact with him, and that guy, I don't know, he sent me several long emails answering some of the questions I had. I got 12 photographs from him out of his personal collection, and I know the guy spent more than 10 minutes putting that stuff together, and I really appreciate the effort that he put into it. And anyway,
Yeah,
I really
well,
enjoyed.
Steve, that is very, very kind of you. And I know next time I stay in contact with Alan, next time I see him, I'll pass those kind words on to him. You know, I could just tell you, working with him on the Squiminar that we just concluded in March, he is just an absolute pleasure and a delight to work with, and a bottomless pit of information. You think you've heard it all, and all of a sudden he comes popping out with some more. So, yeah.
Well, I actually, the thing that triggered my questions was seeing a Milwaukee switch engine and a caboose come out of the west end of the tunnel under the city of Everett, which is GM trackage. And
Right.
that was what triggered my questions. And he actually sent me a photo of the actual locomotive and caboose that I saw there. So it was really nice of him to do that, and I appreciate it.
Well, and thank you again, Steve. Testimonial, dear friends. And, you know, it's part of the fun is the collaboration that we have here in the group. But before I go, we're gonna wrap up here in a minute. Eric, what kind of jigsaw puzzle are you working on? You're supposed to be sorting timetables for Fobner.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. You caught me.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could see my puzzle here, but yeah, it's a drive-in hamburger joint thing from the 50s, 60s, that kind of thing.
There you go.
Anyway, you don't want to hear from me. I'm on vacation.
Okay. All right. Where are you on vacation?
Oh, we're at Rockaway Beach, and there's the
Nice.
GN engine is out there. It's not running this week. Apparently they ran it last week, all week long during spring break. And now that we're here on spring break, everything's closed.
There you go. Yeah, Rockaway Beach, great spot. Near Garibaldi. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, we're north of that, at the north end of the line there where the tourist train runs, and it's there with the GN engine is there with F unit with 3 cars hooked up, sitting by the ticket booth there.
Now, I believe, Daniel, you can confirm this for me because you know all this stuff. But I believe that Great Northern unit, wasn't that a Seattle and North Coast?
I've heard both versions of the story. I'm not sure what is true, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised because they had one. And by that time, where else would you get one?
Where else would you get one? Indeed. So, well, cool. So if I hear nothing more from our esteemed audience today, I'm the chair, and so I can move for adjournment. And so it's a beautiful day. Get outside and enjoy the beautiful weather. And Doug, I'll get you onto our list. And remember, in 2 weeks, it's a double header. It's kind of like a daytime double header with an 11 o'clock program and a 1 o'clock program. And we're going to be featuring 2 of my favorite people, Jack Christensen, who's in our audience today, and of course, Gary Tarbox, Director Emeritus of the Pacific Northwest Railroad Archive and Editor Emeritus of the Northern Pacific Main Streeter magazine. So, hearing no further business, I'm just going to say, hey, everybody, have a great day. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to be with us and have some company and talk trains. And I will look forward to seeing everybody again in 2 weeks. So until then, Jonathan Fisher, your host and moderator, is saying bye for now. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks again for being here. All right. End of meeting.